Good morning, this is Randy. I'm just going to talk a little bit about a phone call that I got last night. And it was a bit encouraging getting this call from an old friend, an old co-worker. When I say old, she's not old. She's actually younger than me. She's 48. And we worked together for about 6 years. And it was in the 90s that we worked together, and up until 2001 when I left the workplace and went to another job, and she stayed. So this is a woman who is a psychologist, and she was married to a guy, and they had 2 kids. Their kids now are 22 and 14. Her name's Beth. So Beth ended up getting a divorce from her husband about 13 years ago, right after I left that workplace. And we lost touch because we were no longer working together. But we still had each other's phone numbers, and she would call me maybe every few years just to touch base. She said she always thinks about me when she's considering moving and changing jobs, because she considered, she thought I was brave for how I kind of moved around a little earlier in my career and really tried to get settled into the best kind of position possible for our field. And so she's called me probably 5 times since since 2001. But we haven't really caught up on each other's lives. So this time she actually hadn't talked to me probably for 6 years. So we began to talk, and she told me that her ex-husband had remarried a woman 10 years younger, and she's fine with it. She's happy for him, she said, and she's still got to have contact with him because they have this, minor child together, and he's paying child support. And then I remarked following that yeah, my husband married someone who's 22 years younger. And she was like, oh God, she's like, yeah, it's like disgusting. She says, but really nothing surprises me anymore. That's just kind of crazy, you just can't tell anymore. And she kind of was flip about it. And so a little further in the conversation, she said, so, how's married life? You're a married lady now. And I said, Beth, no, I just told you my husband, I'm using his name. She knows him. It sounds weird because I'd be like, no, Jay married, I told you, someone 22 years younger. She was like, what? Jay? I thought you were talking about your first husband. No, not Jay. Because I worked with Beth when I met Jay, the narc. That's not his real name. So, she couldn't believe it. Even after she said, nothing surprises me, she was assuming that I was talking about my first husband, and who cares who he married, I was with Jay, right? But no, I was talking about Jay, and she had heard that I got married in 2010. So it was her first contact with me after we had actually tied the knot. She said, you guys were together so long. I don't understand that. What happened? And I told her in a nutshell, as she could understand. I did mention, narcissistic personality disorder. And she was like, oh my God, that is crazy. I went on and told her just a little bit more. And she said, that is really, really disturbing. And she said something is clearly wrong with him. Because Randy, I knew him and I knew you, and that what he's done is so off the wall, and so out of character, and even in her eyes, because she knew him a little bit. He would come up to our workplace and visit me, and, he met my friends at that workplace. He knows them really well. So she said, Randy, he's going to get a divorce from this girl. And I'm like, you think so? And she's like, yeah. She says, I think he's gonna realize what he's done. He's made a mistake, and he doesn't know it now, but he's gonna realize what he's done. He's gonna try to come back to you. And I said, you think? And she's like, I really do. And I just said, well, I don't think so, because I think he's just continuing to decompensate and go downhill. I don't really see him kind of turning things around for himself. I don't think he's got it in him to try, to do that, despite all the other things that you guys already know, that I've pretty much prevented any kind of hoovering to take place. And like, what am I talking about? He's married anyways, and I don't want him. But all that aside, if I did want him back, I don't, just speaking from a clinical point of view, I don't think he's ever going to resume reality again and come back from his behavior. You know what Beth said? She says, Randy, she goes, you stabilized him. It was weird because, like, just being somebody who I worked with, she had so much insight. She said, you stabilized him, and he needs that. And, like, he's really going to get worse if he doesn't come back to you. And I thought, wow, here's somebody who I never would have thought that, I could rely on or depend on for validation. I had rarely talked to her. And in one quick conversation, she empathized. She validated me. She said all the right things to make me feel good. And I was really surprised at her reaction. I was really happy to see that there was somebody that could actually respond normally to my story. And I didn't even go into depth. I wish I had called Beth when I was, like, in the depths of despair, like right at the discard phase. I bet she would have been able to support me. Anyway, so she was very surprised to hear the news, and at least she didn't just blow it off like it was nothing. She didn't say it takes two to tango or anything like that. And off topic, I was just reading a comment on one of my YouTube videos about narcs marrying other narcs and marrying, like, maybe other borderline personalities. And I just kind of wanted to mention that, if a narc doesn't get with a codependent or somebody that he can manipulate, and we don't even have to call the person a codependent, it could be anybody. It can be a normal person who they can manipulate. And if he doesn't get with that, which I think probably is the best supply that they could ask for, then they will tend to find another narc also, not because they can control each other, although they are both kind of dependent on each other, as we know, but because with antisocial tendencies and criminal activities. Narcs who have um, criminal traits, I think, will get together because they like to partner up as those, quote, partners in crime. That's just a phrase, but in this case, I think narcs partner up to be seriously partners in crime. Like, it's a partner that will help me try to manipulate the system, maybe steal money, embezzle, come up with a new money-making scheme, work with me to be focused on money, material things, so that we get a lot of, stuff. I think that is another attraction. And the other thing I think is another attraction is that when the narcissist that leaves you is delusional or really grandiose, I think that they like other delusional, grandiose people as well. So I think the mental illness factor, I think they like to also get together with somebody who's mentally ill but still functional in the world, like bipolar, manics, schizotypal personalities, histrionic personalities, and other borderline personalities, because they are entertained by those people. Because when those people are in their manic phase, or they're like real eccentric, or they're unbalanced and delusional themselves, I think it makes the narc feel both entertained and amused, and also makes the narcissist not feel, bad about themselves if they surround themselves with somebody who's maybe got a social anxiety disorder, if they surround themselves with somebody who's even got a physical handicap, or a terminal illness, or a debilitating disease. It's like they don't just connect with codependents. They find other people that have, for lack of a better term, something wrong with them that's kind of similar to what the narcissist has wrong with them. And the more things the other partner has wrong with them, the better. But if that person's still functional and the narcissist doesn't have to put too much effort into maintaining the relationship, they will get with another person like that. And I'm sorry for saying so much, being unprepared, but that's all. Thanks for listening today.